Good morning, everybody. Buenos dias. Welcome to day 211 of the year. How are you feeling this morning? I hope you woke up well rested and ready to start the cycle of a new day and a new morning wherever you are in the world. It is a lovely, quiet, yin start to the day here in Costa Rica. I'm waking up slowly, drinking a cup of coffee. I'm outside in the natural world, listening to the wind rustle through the palms, listening to the ocean, listening to the parrots fly by, just connecting with the natural world. Hopefully that's something that you've incorporated into your routine as well, wherever you are in the world, waking up slowly and taking some time in the natural world to start your day. So we're on day 211 of the year, and according to 365 Tao by Deng Ning Tao, our word on day 211 is absolute. So grab your book, grab your journal and something to write with. Find that nice, quiet and comfy place where you're not going to be disturbed for the next 15 minutes or so while we read together. Remember, 15 minutes is just 1% of your day. Take a nice deep breath in with a long exhale out. Be present, be here, be now. And let's start reading on day 211 on the subject of absolute. They say you are God, but everyone is. They say all is God. Then why is there a difference? They say all is an illusion, but does that include God? Those who follow Tao declare that there is no evidence that a God created our world. They have not found any empirical proof, and they cannot accept the idea philosophically. They reason that God must be absolute, and this means oneness, omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipresence. Naturally, anything separate and distinct would not satisfy this criteria. If there was a God and a world that God created, then these would be two things. Right? So God and the world that God created, that's two things, that's duality. And God could not be considered absolute. If there was an absolute God, these could not be anything separate from God. Everything is God. We are also God. However, we fail to realize this. Why? Because we look for God outside of ourselves. There's that word again, outside, external. Instead of realizing that God is within us, we look for it in external ways. We make the mistake of taking ourselves as the viewer and then seek God as the object of our examinations. Unfortunately, everything we perceive is tainted by our subjectivity. Wow, that's a really, really poignant sentence, and that's something really important to remember, not just today, but every day. Everything that we see is tainted by our subjectivity. So we are projecting our subjectivity on everything, and we aren't the only ones that are doing this. Every other human being is doing that as well. When you think about it, it's pretty incredible that anybody gets along or anybody can see eye to eye, because we're all having a very unique experience. We are all perceiving things based on us, based on our experiences, based on our past, based on our culture, based on everything that we've been through in our life. That affects the way we perceive what is happening right now. And if that's different for me, it's different for the next person, it's different for the person over there. It's pretty impressive that anybody can see eye to eye, right? Because we're all having such unique and different experiences and interpreting things that are happening right now in reality through that lens. When you stop to think about it, it's pretty incredible how complex the human condition really is. Let's continue. Everything that we define as God is out there, cannot be God, because it is not absolute. All you found is something that exists in relation to your perceptions. That's something so important to remember. The way that you perceive something is exactly that. It's the way you perceive something. And it's not going to be the same as anybody else, because you're a unique individual having a unique experience, and so is every other person. You are God. The only way to confirm this is to remove the the barrier of subjectivity that prevents you from realizing your essential oneness with all things. Wow, so this is a pretty loaded way to start the day on day 211. The word God came up many, many times, and that can always be a very sensitive subject depending on which circles you're running in. But I think kind of the greater lesson for all of this is understanding that, we do project our subjectivity on everything that we perceive in this life, and so does everybody around us. You might have heard some people say that there's two versions of reality. Well, three, if there's a disagreement between people, for example, there's three versions of the truth. Your version, the person you're disagreeing with, and then the truth of what actually happened. Because you're going to have your subjectivity as to what happened, or your bias. That person's going to have their subjectivity and that bias. And then there's an impartial thing, like the impartiality of what actually happened. So as you move through your day, have a think about the way you perceive things. Have a think about the way you perhaps do things. If you find yourself quick to judge something, just pull yourself up and remember, hey, that's based on my perception. That's my unique viewpoint. That's the way I'm projecting what's happening onto the situation. And if you have the self-awareness to do that, because most people do not, try to make that part of your routine. It's going to be difficult in the beginning, but every time you feel like you're going to pass a judgment or think a certain way about something, just be like, hey, is this really what's going on? Or is just this the way I'm choosing to project my perception onto what's actually happening here? You'll be very interested to see how many preconceived notions are kind of just running on autopilot in the background based on, as I said, your beliefs, your past, your religion, your family circumstances, your country, all of those things are kind of just ingrained in you, and they become like a default setting for the way that you perceive what's actually going on. And then if you are in a disagreement with somebody, just remember, hey, the way I see something is not the same way that they see it, and vice versa. So perhaps we're just going to agree to disagree on this one. I saw it one way, they saw it as another way, and it's okay to disagree. You can disagree in a healthy way. You don't have to be best friends with everybody and always agree and have everything be sunshine and rainbows and oh yes, it's perfect, of course I agree and we're besties. That's not reality. It's healthy to have disagreements. It's healthy to have different points of view. And those can actually create some really interesting conversations. Next time somebody says something that's perhaps not the way that you would have perceived it, be like, hey, I've never thought about it that way. Let's talk about it. That's not the way that I perhaps would have seen that, but I'm interested to understand your point of view. Help me understand. Not all discussion or disagreement has to be this horrible, argumentative confrontation. Sometimes it can actually be a very, very healthy conversation. And who knows, you might even learn a thing or two about something that's different from the way that you may have initially perceived it. So I guess having compassion for other people is one of the takeaways from today's passage. Just go through life understanding the way you see things is very unique to you, and the way everybody else sees things is very unique to them as well. And it's not really a reason to have an argument. It's not a reason to disagree. And sometimes it can be a very interesting conversation to have with somebody, hey, that's really interesting. Help me understand how you came to that conclusion and your thought process behind it. So I wish you a beautiful, beautiful day on day 211 of the year. Thank you so much for starting the day with me, and I will check in with you tomorrow. Bye.